right. Looks like we're going to be starting here at table A. We're going to be seeing Christian Urena taking on Michael. And it's a Kashtira mirror match. I think we might see a decent amount of that this weekend. So it looks like G moved away from the tier limit strategy now that the Forbidden List went into effect and has moved on to Kashtira.
I will be very interested in seeing which players actually bring tier elements in general to this weekend, whether or not it's a devoted strategy or sort of embedded into another strategy like branded. But certainly seeing Kashtira is going to be something that we see quite a bit this weekend.
Yep, and let's see, it looks like Michael is going to be starting off first, and he's leading off with the card he wants to lead off with. It's Kashtira Unicorn. Since he controls no monsters, he's able to special summon this card from the hand, and then once per turn, he can add a Kashtira spell from the deck to the hand. Imagine he's going to grab that new secret rare out of Photon Hypernova, Kashtira Theosis, and it does, in fact, look like the card he adds.
Yeah, this deck is really consistent at doing just this between Pressured Planet and actually just opening Unicorn itself in combination with cards like Pot of Prosperity. This deck is incredibly consistent at doing this entire play.
Yep, that is very true. And here we see the Theosis is going to target that Unicorn, and now he can special summon another Kashtira monster of a different attribute from his deck. But for the rest of the turn, he'll be only able to special summon Xyz monsters from the extra deck.
Which is not much of a limitation in this particular strategy.
Certainly not. You won't be able to link away your Ibli anymore, but that's about the only downside. And now it looks like Fenrir is going to use his effect. Once per turn, Fenrir will let you add a Kashtira monster from your deck to your hand. Probably going to go after another new card out of Photon Hypernova, and well, not the one I thought he was going to grab, but it is Scareclaw Kashtira, it looks like. It looks like... All right, so he uses the Theosis, he has the Fenrir and the Unicorn. G might have some more secrets into his deck list than we previously realized. This may not be a pure Kashtira mirror match, but it looks like he didn't add the Rise Heart here because he already had Kashtira Rise Heart in his hand. That's an ultra rare out of Photon Hypernova.
We'll now get to see, more than likely, our first of probably many copies this weekend of Kashtira Shangri-La.
This card is incredible. As cards get banished face down, it'll lock your opponent out of being able to use the monster zones. It has built-in protection, and just for the bonus, special summon a Kashtira during every standby phase.
It also looks like he has Pressured Planet. Is that what that is? It looks like it is.
Pressured Planet Wraithos.
That card is an incredibly powerful card. It's not integral in all of the combos, but when you actually open with that with Shangri-La, it allows you to do some interactions to your opponent's standby phase that actually can add materials underneath your Rise Heart. So it'll be really curious to see whether or not we get to that point.
Yep, the Wraithos added tier limits Kashtira, and now he's using the Rise Heart effect to turn it into a level 7 and banish a Kashtira card from his deck, and he's going to banish Kashtira Big Bang. He's going to lock out that zone. Now Big Bang is going to activate, adding Kashtira Fenrir to his hand, and then allowing him to special summon that Kashtira Fenrir from the hand if he so chooses, and he does. He wants that Fenrir on the field for the protection. And now, since he triggered the effect of Shangri-La, he's going to be able to trigger the field spell, targeting Shangri-La to destroy it. And now Shangri-La protects itself from being destroyed by card effects by detaching material.
And he's going to use that now to be able to banish the Unicorn from his graveyard and able to summon tier element, Kashtira. I'm choosing not to activate the effect.
Now he's going to special summon Scareclaw Kashtira. Scareclaw Kashtira and Kashtira Tillaments both have similar effects. Instead of not having to control monsters to special summon, you just have to banish a monster of the theme within their name. So a Scareclaw or Kashtira for the Scareclaw Kashtira, or a Tillaments and a Kashtira for the Tillaments Kashtira. And a second Shangri-La is coming down here. You said we were going to see a lot this week, and we're already seeing 2 on the first turn.
And now we see Diabolos the Mind Hacker. Another one of those cards that has been around for a while, maybe looking for a home.
Debuted as a YCS prize card, yeah. Hopefully we get to see some ultra rare copies out here this weekend of some dedicated duelists who truly love Kashtira. But he is going to trigger the effect of Diabolos. This is going to be banishing cards and locking out zones. These 2 cards, the Shangri-La and Diabolos the Mind Hacker, just work so well together.
It's really amazing how they both happen to be level 7s too, that really fits just so well together.
Yep,
cards released probably 5+ years apart.
Oh yeah, so far apart. And it looks like G has seen enough. Instead of revealing any part of his strategy,
I guess the only thing to note is he could potentially choose to go second with this really robust going second. Side deck, that is, I guess, theoretically an option, kind of looking at what he would put in going first and really not seeing many options.
I think that strategy is not bad either because...
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah. You have the Kashtira, the board breakers are the best way to deal with Kashtira, and if you just let someone side in all their board breakers and then you go first, you're kind of in trouble.
Yeah, open up as many lava golems as you want, you're going first. But speaking of opening up, we see Christian here opening up with Kashtira Fenrir. I'd say, maybe perhaps before Photon Hypernova, that would be the ideal opening. In this case, you much more prefer opening Unicorn, but it does depend on sort of the makeup of his entire hand as to whether or not this is going to enable him to do a nice first turn combo.
Very true. And it looks like he's going to grab that Kashtira Rise Heart and add it to the hand. Taking a moment to consider his next move. Definitely, I think you touched on it. Like, yeah, you normally before Photon Hypernova, leading with Fenrir is like just ideal. It's just a free monster on the field. You're getting another copy. It has some form of disruption, but yeah, Unicorn definitely taking that slot of the one you want to lead with. And maybe he's like hard drawn Theosis. Well, you can pretty much guess he doesn't have Pressure Planet Rathos because he would have probably started with that. But he has Birth, which is going to let him normal summon a level 7 monster.
Okay, so we actually did have Unicorn. That's an interesting sequencing there. Maybe perhaps trying to see whether or not the Kashtira Fenrir could bait out a copy of something like Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, enabling him to just then follow up with Birth and Unicorn, and then enabling him to go into his combo that way.
Smart, very smart. And it looks like he added Kashtira Theosis off of that Unicorn.
Sometimes you might default into just seeing Unicorn in your hand and thinking, great, I opened what is perceived to be my best opening play. But looking at the entire makeup of your hand and maybe perhaps trying to target some of the things that Michael may have, sequencing it in a slightly different way actually gets to the exact same route, but also enables you to play around cards like Ash Blossom and potentially Infinite Impermanence.
Yeah, that's like the benefit of playing something like Kashtira Birth, right? When you're able to open up with, like, it's essentially an extender in the Kashtira deck because you're able to normal summon a monster after you've already special summoned monsters when you're normally not able to. So it kind of works as like gaining an extra summon for your Kashtiras, even though it's just your regular normal summon. Definitely a fantastic card to help play around those cards that get out of the hand. And now it looks like Christian is going to overlay for Shangri-La and going to probably use Rise Heart's effect next. Probably going to banish Big Bang here.
Assuming that he didn't draw what is usually a singleton copy.
It's also going to banish the top 3 cards of Michael's deck face down. And that will trigger the Shangri-La to remove a zone. Ooh. We both saw the shifter there, right?
That is an interesting inclusion. Going into this matchup, we didn't really talk about what Michael's going to side because he's truly siding totally blind, not seeing a single card from Christian's deck after the first game.
So we're already seeing the benefits of not revealing what you're playing.
Yes, Dimension Shifter is actually a card that the Kashtira deck just plays by default under most circumstances, or at least a large percentage of players elected to incorporate that either in their main and certainly in their side deck prior to the Forbidden and Limited list. Michael's electing here to side deck 3 copies, and then going into blind, he decided to put it in. Going second, no, he's hedging against some of the potential strategies.
So the one benefit of playing in the 3v3 YCS is you do have like your friend right next to you. You don't want to bother them too much because they're playing their own games, but you do have the opportunity to ask questions amongst the person sitting next to you and see maybe what they would do. What do you think? And
this is still, relatively speaking, a newer strategy, at least with the cards released in Photon Hypernova. And if you were an Adamant Tier Element player prior to the Forbidden and Limited list, your experience and sort of the intricacies could be exclusively in those strategies, which means you've only had about a week or so, especially if under the shows Christian actually played last weekend. It's not like he was able to immediately begin testing for this event. So you can understand some degree of familiarity with a deck like Tier Element would be of benefit to him, but with the new Forbidden and Limited list, he might need to rely a little bit more on his teammates.
Very true, and they always got their back. That's one thing I like about the Team YCS. Not just you could have fun with your friends. There's something about playing with your friends when it doesn't feel as bad when you lose. But it looks like he's going to use Theosis, targeting the Fenrir to summon Scareclaw Kashtira from the deck. Or sorry, Tearlaments Kashtira. And that's going to send 3. Ooh, King of the Swamp.
We see it.
Scream! He is using Tearlaments Kashtira. He does have the one copy of all those Tearlament names in his deck. And we see Scream is going to probably add Tearlament Soliac.
Yep, yes, Soliac and Metanoid. So what's interesting here is Michael on the first turn elected not to use the effect to send the top cards of your deck to the graveyard, whereas Christian, on the other hand, actually is quite a bit benefited by that effect. As you can see here, getting a free Scream effect. In addition to that, it also reveals that he's playing cards like King of the Swamp, which could impact some of his fusion plays going forward.
Yeah, the cool thing about King of the Swamp with the Kashtira deck is you can go into Draco Sack to Cherubini to sink King of the Swamp. Then you link the Cherubini and the Draco Sack into Sprite Sprint. Sprint sends down the Tearlament, and then you can make a Winda, or not Winda, what is it, Grapha. Grapha's the one you make a lot of the times. The new Grapha has the structure deck. Or it's new Rainbow, sorry. Grapha's new General Rainbow. But definitely something cool.
Dragon Overlord of the Dark World.
There you go. Now he's going to overlay for Diabolus.
I do add meta noise, though.
Yeah, he added meta noise. So another thing that's cool about meta noise is it's really good against Kashtira. So it
Oh,
was
yes.
not very good against the tier mirror match, but Kashtira, when you put their monster face down, they have basically a frozen part on the field. They can't theosis, they can't keep summoning. Definitely strong.
And if you've already lost several of your monster zones due to Shangri-La, all of a sudden that monster face down on the field, it's almost adding an additional blank monster zone.
And I attach Big Bang, right?
Well, we have to resolve.
All right, so yeah. And then
And that's another cool thing. So with a Rise Heart, you have Big Bang, you can detach this material, you banish it again to use its effect during your punch. You have to keep triggering the effect as every time you detach it gets banished and will be triggered. Same thing with like Kashtira Theosis.
Taking away his Big Eye. That's an exciting card, similar to Forbidden Lands that we now see with a resurgence in popularity now that rank 7 XYZs have become popular again in the format.
Yeah, it's cool to see Big Eye around. So he's got 2 zones locked here. No, it looks like he's going to lock another one.
Looks like Michael elected to play a lot of 2-ubs in his extra deck, which is obviously one of the things that can sort of alleviate the effects either of Unicorn or Diabolos.
I already banished
I
one.
banished 4.
And you have to attach. It's mandatory.
Attach again, right?
Yeah, it's mandatory.
Just 3.
So now we have a Rise Heart here with 3 materials. That's really the magic number that you're trying to get to when you're opening up with Kashtira, because now he'll have the quick effect ability to banish a card face down, which then will trigger again. Shangri-La potentially locking out another zone.
During the draw phase, I'm going to activate Book of Eclipse.
Ooh, Michael does have the Book of Eclipse. Does Christian have something like Ash Blossom? He does! So the one downside of Book of Eclipse is it does include the effect to draw cards, so you can use Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring against it. So it's definitely a strong counter to one of the biggest counter cards to the Kashtira strategy.
Yes, we do see some players electing to main deck Ash Blossom. It isn't the case for Christian, a card that came out of his side deck, so we actually do get to see at least some of his side decking strategies. A card that may not intuitively be as beneficial going first, it actually works as a pretty important piece of interruption against cards like Book of Eclipse, and we see that that's actually going to be enough for Michael to concede here in Game 2.
Look, we can look at the table scores updated. It looks like Table B, Justin defeated Hani in the first game. So if Michael's able to win this game and Justin wins the next game, that will be the round.
Yep, they are the closer of team to victory as of right now. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. And Michael going first here, that could be a huge advantage depending on how well he opened, or if Christian has some of those counter cards, some of those board breakers, some of those really powerful spell cards, we might be in for a rude awakening here. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, let's see what Michael leads off with. Does he have, I see, is that a reinforcement to the army? That's what it looks like to me.
It is, yes.
He has Unicorn, he has plenty of Kashtira monsters for sure.
Well, that's good. The first check is basically, do I have access to Unicorn? And if not, do I have access to Fenrir plus Birth? So it looks like that's going to resolve, which will allow him to search out a copy of Kashtira Birth.
Birth's a good one. It lets you normal summon level 7 monsters. It's actually good in like non-Kashtira decks because it just works for any level 7 monster. You can just summon without a normal summon.
I can imagine a universe someday where an additional level 7 strategy becomes popular enough, and perhaps that could be used as an extender. So looking over his hand, it looks like he already has a copy of Rise Heart. I think I saw a copy of Pressured Planet. Okay, here's Reinforcements of the Army.
Classic. We're talking about classic cards. Reinforcements, one of the oldest, going to add a warrior.
That looks like Crusadia Arborea.
Oh, it is Arborea. That's right. Oh, so I guess it's like to continue with Ibli. So you link your Ibli away, and then you can special summon Arborea. That's interesting. I haven't seen people use Crusadia Arborea in Kashtira.
Yeah, this could be an interesting breakthrough in terms of the strategy.
Oh, it's a synchro. Oh, he's just going to synchro for 10. He's just going to synchro for Baron. Okay. I've seen that with Ash Blossom, but not with the Crusadia. Interesting.
Okay, and he did have Pressured Planet as well.
Yep. Now he has the Baron. Doesn't have to worry about that Nibiru. Doesn't even need the Ibli. Pretty cool play.
Now, we talked a little bit about, when you're playing first with Kashtira, some of the strategies that you have to worry about is obviously cards like Book of Eclipse, Book of Moon, and those Book of a Lunar Eclipse type cards. Well, obviously having Baron on the field is one of the ways that you can alleviate that. It is, however, something that is going to play into Lava Golem type effects, so it'll be curious to see whether or not Michael has an avenue of playing around both cards like Book of Moon, Book of Eclipse, but then also having a way of mitigating the effects of a card like Lava Golem if Christian has that card in his deck.
Certainly. And it looks like he's going to add Tearlament's Kashtira.
You won the match?
Oh, it sounds like Justin may have won. It sounded like Michael was talking to his teammate there.
I'll take some.
It looks like Justin is playing a pretty traditional-looking Sprite strategy. So another deck that had a limitation on the Forbidden Limited list by losing Elf was able to be victorious here in round 1.
That's pretty cool. Definitely Sprite still out there, despite that loss of Elf. And now it looks like Riseheart is going to banish
Probably Big Bang.
Yep. And now Christian was going to lose the top 3 cards from his deck. Banish face down.
You banished 3. Chainlink 1, target the zone. Chainlink 2 to summon.
Yep, so he's going to lock out the zone. Big Bang, when it's banished, lets you take a material from one of your monsters and add it to your hand, and then you can special summon it if you so choose. And now he's going to banish a Kashtira or a Tearlament's card to summon Kashtira. Tearlament's Kashtira, and now it looks like he's going to be going for something similar to that play. Oh, not going to be double, but he's going to go into a Riseheart and then probably deal Bolus.
It's interesting. You don't technically have to summon up Big Bang, so with certain hands you can actually use it to give yourself follow-up for the turn after. Really sort of depends on how many extenders you have, to the extent of whether or not you actually need that effect.
Yeah, it's cool. It gives you some flexibility for sure.
This is interesting. In looking at Christian's extra deck, because he's incorporating this King of the Swamp Tear Element package, there's actually a lot more singletons, right? He only has, one copy, for example, of Kashtira or Riseheart, only one copy of Kashtira Shangri-La. He actually is playing 15 singletons.
Can you come this side or no?
Justin, what do you think I banished from the extra deck? There's only one Zeus, there's one Mud Dragon, one Riseheart. Probably just the Mud Dragon for Super Poly. Okay.
Yeah, this is a really interesting thing. Players have often, this format, even though it's relatively early, picked up on the fact that due to the Mind Hacker, you often need to play 2 copies of your most important extra deck monsters. Christian, because his deck is as broad as it is, incorporating the Tear Element package and the King of the Swamps polymerization package, is truly only playing 1 copy of everything. So when Michael gets to resolve that effect, he gets the full array of options.
Certainly, and it does sound like we did hear right. Justin did win at table B, so now if Michael is able to take this game, they will walk away with this victory over the champion from just last weekend.
It's interesting. He ended up taking Mud Dragon, which plays around Super Polymerization, which is a card that Christian is playing. It's interesting to the extent to which, in Christian's testing, players were in tune enough with the presence of Mud Dragon. It's almost enticing when you see 1 copy of the Kashtira XYZ monsters to take those instead, just because of how integral they are to the combo and to the strategy as a whole. Whereas a card like Mud Dragon is actually important when trying to return back with a card like Super Polymerization.
Yeah, certainly. Definitely heads up play here from Michael going after that Mud Dragon.
Main phase.
The main phase is fine.
Let's see what he can do about this board. Does he have a Book of Eclipse? Does he have a Winged Dragon of Raw Seer mode? Will the Ancient Beast in the Sky hear my cry and come down? We'll have to find out.
This triggers no matter what, right?
It's mandatory.
This will search Dark Ruler.
Okay, I think he's talking about tasking. I heard him say this will search Dark Ruler, so that has to be tasking.
Lock all 5 zones. Okay, I'll chain this effect.
So we get Dark Ruler and then
Target this.
So G activated Primeval Planet,
Okay.
and now it got banished face down from a Riseheart.
Do you have any trigger effects?
And that's going to chain Shangri. It's going to trigger Shangri-Ira and deal Bolus.
Top 9 cards in your deck.
They're definitely talking about having a copy of Triple Tactics Thrust.
Yeah, brand new secret rare out of Photon Hypernova, a really cool one. That's pretty scary for like branded players or in a lot of decks because you're able to add any spell or trap, and if your opponent has a monster, if they activate a monster effect, and if they have a monster, you can use it that turn. So definitely really good. But you see G losing all 5 zones here, but he does have that thrust.
I'm curious to see what he searches. So what is happening here is actually really an amazing high-level play. Michael is afraid of Dark Ruler no more. Christian has actually said Dark Ruler no more out loud. There's no copy of Dark Ruler in his deck.
Is there a card that you can search that Baron can't negate? That's a normal spell? Or trap? I'll just negate it.
So this may be what Christian has actually wanted entirely. So I'm really curious to see what he's able to follow up on here, because that may have been the bait.
No, he has another one.
That's fine.
Since it says activate instead of use and negates the activation, he's going to be able to use another copy. This is huge. So basically got to bait out the Baron for free, and now he's going to be able to grab something like Book of Eclipse from his, or not Book of Eclipse, he's going to have to grab like, I don't know what he's going to be able to grab.
Change of Heart?
Oh, Change of Heart would be a good one.
Then I just route to you. So it's like,
Oh, it looks like they're discussing getting Triple Tactics Talent. When I first read Thrust, I was like, oh, this card just adds Triple Tactics Talents, right? Because what is a card better than Pot of Greed, Change of Heart, and Forceful Sentry all in one?
And it's interesting, in this particular matchup, a Rise Heart's effect is mandatory, so it's actually quite easy to get the Triple Tactics cards to be live, which is not necessarily always the case.
I don't think you can take. Can he take while he has no zones to take to? Okay.
Yeah, that is interesting. The zones are locked
Yeah.
out.
I'm pretty sure it takes it and then like it goes to the graveyard because I don't have zones. But can you double check to make sure?
Yeah, that might be right.
This is. Let's go back to 2023 and take a look at how we've resolved this.
Yeah, Blackwings work good back then. They do like to attack. They can summon the field. But it looks like they resolved that he cannot activate the card. Because it looks like, yeah, it's not banished, not anywhere. Nothing left Michael's field, so it doesn't look like he's able to activate Triple Tactics Talent because all his zones are locked.
He'll,
Monster zones.
I guess, be able to draw 2 cards. So he's going to use Pressure Planet now to slim his deck out of a Unicorn. That way it increases the likelihood of drawing into a potential card that can try and break through Michael's board. Yeah, so this is a really important sequencing for players that, if you have a card like Reinforcement of the Army, Pressured Planet, even Primeval Planet, you do want to use those cards first, generally speaking, to ensure that you don't draw into the card that you would otherwise search. But here, Christian is extending the hand. That means Michael will be winning this game, and that will also mean that Michael and his team will be winning the match.
Wow, just incredible. Yeah, we didn't get to see Justin, but he was able to take that 2-0. You said he was playing Sprites, too, so don't think the Sprites are out of it just yet, because it's definitely a quick 2-0, because this match wasn't even that long to begin with. But Team Zero Blaze is going to walk away with the win here, round 1, over Team Really Scrambling. And now it looks like they might be living up to their name. With a loss in round 1, they're going to be really scrambling.
They were devoted towards trying